If it says connecting. Okay, good to go. Alright, guys, are we live? I hope we're live.
Yeah, it looks like
I'm
we are.
I'm going. I'm going. Okay, cool. I'm going to assume we're live now. So, alright, guys, welcome to Swaratmika presents the opening act, featuring Dhruv Visvanath. I'm your
Ooh.
host Aronjoy, and we'll be doing a podcast style session for today. And
Yeah.
I'm more than happy. Uh, Oh, sorry, I got interrupted for a second. I had the YouTube thing open on my right, so that just popped up on my
Right.
head as well. Anyway, so I'm really, really happy to have an alumni of Shahid Bhagat Singh College and one of the best independent musicians to come out of our country, Mr. Dhruv Viswanath.
Ooh.
Welcome
Wow,
to our
you think I'm
session.
one of the best? Holy fuck. We must really suck.
No, you are. I mean,
No, I'm kidding, man.
way to give us so much complex, Dhruv. Like seriously.
No, man. But I'm really glad that you enjoy the music in any case, and there's
I
guys
have.
like you as well. So, um, yeah, I know
That's
we're going podcast style today, unfortunately,
yeah.
because I don't know if you guys know, but I'm COVID positive, and I don't think I want to be in front of in front of a camera right now.
Yeah, we don't want to spread that stuff over the camera.
No, no, I know, but I just don't think I look pretty at all. So I think it's better.
Come on, Dhruv, you look beautiful. You have so many press photos in which you look absolutely dashing.
Pre-COVID, pre-COVID, buddy, pre-COVID. But thank you, thank you so much for the
Yeah,
messages, guys.
yeah.
But
I
yeah, I'm
hope
really
you feel
happy to be
better
here.
soon.
Thank you.
Glad to
I
have
think
you.
I'm on the mend, so I'm going to touch wood. Let's hope I can taste something soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe get over the cardboard water that you just described earlier.
yeah, I know it's tea actually. It's just chai,
Oh, damn.
but yeah, it's cardboard water at this point. So
I can
yeah.
imagine. Also, Dhruv, before we actually start the session and we ease into it, like a lot of people, like when I was telling people about this session that we're about to have and this conversation we're about to have, I was mentioning the fact that you were from Bhagat Singh as well,
Mm.
and out of say 10 people, I would have told this to 9 people were like, "What? Dhruv went to Bhagat Singh? What? What? We had no idea." So do you want to like shed some light on that? Is there a reason why like not many people know of it? Is it because you never really cared to mention, or if it did it never come up, or was it something else that you didn't want to associate yourself with it? What was it?
Absolutely. No, no, no. It wasn't that I didn't want to associate myself. The truth of the matter is that it never came up.
Right.
But because I don't think it really mattered where I was from
Hmm.
later on. But funnily enough, there are lots of people who are Bhagat Singh alumnuses, and I was surprised. So Bhuvan
Yeah,
Bam,
like Bhuvan Bam.
uh,
Yeah, we're gonna talk about him in a bit.
Bhuvan Bam, and there's another guy, Akash Gupta, this comedian who's on Comic Stan.
Oh damn, I
Uh,
didn't know that.
he has that skit no on YouTube where he goes like, "Excuse me,
Yeah.
brother," yeah, that one. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so and of course, I think our
Siddharth
fellow
Malhotra, I think.
Siddharth Malhotra and our fellow Advaita
Oh yeah, Mr.
people,
Anand Bose.
on Bose. So
Yeah.
and so I think like our college is filled with very hidden gems. I would say
Y-
lots of people
exactly.
who are successful, who were maybe not successful, but maybe who found their time in the spotlight um,
Right.
without having to sort of delve too much into their history. So at some
Right.
way, in some way, it's a bit of a blessing. So I think it's good.
I mean, it is. I was also pretty surprised because I myself had like a bit of a journey. Like coming to Bhagat Singh wasn't like the first thing I did,
Yeah,
and I had gone to Bombay after my school. After I was done with school in
yeah,
2015, I was
yeah.
there for 2 years. Then I dropped out of there, and I came to Bhagat Singh. And one thing at the back of my mind when I was preparing for my EC auditions, and I don't know how much this matters today, but at that point of time, it did kind of matter to me because I
Yeah.
don't know. I personally like have been following your music for a while. I think I made that abundantly clear by this point of time, and it's not. I'm not like trying to suck up or anything. It's just the honest truth. I know like there's no getting away from it, and I have been following your music since I was back in school. Like I remember like going on your YouTube channel, and you used to put up like single take I think videos with your camera,
Mm.
and I remember like particularly like Father and Trance were like two songs that I went to YouTube to MP3 converter, and I downloaded the audio of those songs, and I used to like sit in my school bus and put on my earphones and listen to that every day to like
Don't make me feel
school.
old. You said school bus.
Yeah, school. I'm quite. I mean, I'm not trying to make you feel old or anything, but like,
Holy shit! You said school bus. Oh fuck.
yeah. But dude, this is like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I guess.
Hmm.
As old as your videos, I suppose. I mean, I
Yeah, yeah.
feel
Some of
old.
them are.
I'm turning 24 this year, and I feel old as shit. I
Oh,
mean, like I'm
oh.
genuinely,
You're turning
yeah,
24. Holy crap.
yeah, yeah.
Man, I'm about to turn 30 this year. And this
What?
is like, yeah, and like feel it at all.
In what way? Like the 30, like you don't feel it in what way? Like you feel younger? Or do you feel older? Like what is it?
I actually just don't feel ready. That's
That's appropriate. I
But
feel that
listen,
too.
thank you so much. Like it really like warms my heart to know that you actually used to listen to my music for
I really
you know
did, and I
at this time.
because
Like that's great.
I'd never heard anything like that before. Like especially from our country, like let alone like Delhi. Like I hadn't heard anything like it before, and it was only after I discovered Andy McKee through you, which is like
Oh,
that's yeah, and like it's I know you've talked about this a lot before with a lot of other people, and it's very clear that
mm,
Andy McKee was one of your earliest influences in how you played the guitar,
yeah.
and even John Gom, I suppose. I think because like Andy McKee didn't sing as much as I mean I don't think he sang at all, did he?
Actually, not John Gom so much because I think John Gom did like I mean he played a part in maybe legitimizing what I was trying to do, but
Right.
I think when it came to the actual thing of playing and learning. I think Andy McKee was more influential, and there was this singer songwriter who I used
Hmm.
to listen to a lot. His name is Newton Faulkner,
Oh
and
right, yeah, yeah,
he used to do this a lot, where he used to hit the guitar and sing a lot, and a
yeah.
lot of his
Right.
biggest songs were just him whacking the guitar and with all these tones and all these sounds and everything. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think like that played a big influence on your sound, I guess, because I mean, I remember remember watching the videos back in the day, and even while like just warming up to this conversation, I just dove back into like the depths of like YouTube history and like seeing what I used to like, and I remember like you did a lot of other covers as well. Like you used to do a lot of covers before. Like I think was
Yeah.
there an effort to kind of get in on the YouTube game, because I think that was a time where YouTube had just started taking off internationally and let alone India. I mean, YouTube wasn't what it is today, and like was that like a conscious effort in like like trying to like get your name out there? I mean, I'm sure it was, but in what was going through your mind while putting all those videos on YouTube?
I'm gonna tell you super honestly that everything I have done was because I felt like doing it at that point in time. I felt like making videos. I felt like doing these things. I felt like telling these stories. All of these things were super super important parts of my story, and I felt like it was important for me to like just hold on 1 second, sorry, because we're all
Yeah,
kind
no
of in a
worries.
closed environment at home.
Yeah, no worries.
um you know uh maybe some time. Yeah,
That's okay. That's okay. Take your time. No worries,
okay,
guys.
so yeah, like
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
so sorry.
No
So
worries. No
sometimes
worries.
like sometimes with the whole thing of making music, I didn't really know how to record the music and like produce it, so I would just put it on video and everything of the sort.
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, so everything is so everything was just like as a spur of the moment thing. I never really thought of saying like, okay, I'm going to do this to up my brand or some crap like that or anything of the
Right.
sort. I just made the music because I made it, and I did it at that time because it helped. Like the initial thing was not to put it on YouTube. Actually, what I would
Right.
do is upload videos on Facebook,
Oh,
and
okay.
then what I would do is spam the crap out of everybody and tag people on the videos. Because, like that's what you would do. Like you would just
Yeah, yeah,
tag people and
exactly.
do that. And like there was a point in which I was um, there was a point at which I was doing, I put a video up once a week or once a month or something like that. And there was one point in time, my family and I went on holiday to Kashmir,
Right.
and I uploaded two songs before going,
Right.
and both those songs kind of blew up in the time that I was gone. Like, at that
Oh
time there
damn.
was like the guys like Junkyard Groove and all this and stuff. All these other
Right. Right.
bands that were there, like they were just sharing these songs and everything. Suddenly, I find that some of my songs have been shared at the time like hundreds and hundreds of times, and like.
Wow.
And I had gone just for like, I was out for 10 days. I had no access to internet, and I see this. I was like, wow, this is surprising. I was just really blown away by everything. That's when like I thought it was much easier to put up videos and try and do that better. I think as time grew, I just started realizing the amount of effort that goes into making music. And it was so important to make the music, because I
Right.
thought that the more videos I made, a lot of people just saw how I played the guitar, and
Right.
it kind of felt like I didn't want to be seen as this one dude who's just
Spanking the
spanking.
guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Jinx, personal jinx. So,
Yeah.
like,
Okay. I need
but
to
yeah,
break it
like,
at some point of time.
hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I needed to. I personally thought that I needed to be more present, and I think I needed to spend more time on my craft, and that's what I did for a year or two or something. When I started writing new material, when I started writing new songs and everything, this whole spectrum of ideas, when as and when it came, like in terms of writing for a band, in terms of writing as a songwriter, as a person who sings now, these are all important things, because I just didn't want to be seen as this guy who, um,
Right.
is stuck in the same circle. And the funny thing
Hmm.
is, like, being in India, and the fact that my Hindi is so bad, I never wrote a song in Hindi. I never wrote anything like, in a language that was here or anything. So I knew that if I kept on writing in my language or anything, I would only get so far in English. Like, and if I
Right.
kept on writing in this style or whatever. So I thought that if I couldn't grow in one way, I could try and grow in another and just push my songwriting more. And so it helped to make more albums, it helped to make more songs, and focus less on trying to figure out how to make videos of them anymore. Like, so
Hmm.
i think at the time I think at the time, like, um YouTube was necessary, not just for like my the fact that I could put videos out there and let people know or anything, but it was necessary because I didn't know any other way to put my music out there at the time. And that
Right.
was the easiest way
Right.
to do.
It definitely was. I mean, it does sort of form a portfolio, of a sort. I mean, if especially like if someone is just discovering your music, I mean, it does
Yeah.
help for them to kind of know your style and know, what kind of music you make. And
Yeah.
uh, I'm glad you said that like your the fact that you uploaded videos not thinking much about it, just for the reason that you wanted to. I think that does show in a lot of, because you as much as like the covers, they did really well. Like you have so many original compositions, and
Yeah.
like the two original compositions that like stayed with me, I mean, those were like, I think one of the most sincere compositions that you did at that point of time.
Thank you.
And I mean that it just shows. I mean, like throughout, even from there, like starting from there, coming to your journey today, I mean, there was a lot that happened in the middle that also I would like to like get into a little bit as
Yeah.
we move on. There was a point where I mean, if we just like open your YouTube channel and just see like the trajectory of how it started to how it progressed, we see
Mm.
like I remember like following Dhruv Visvanath trio as well. You had a trio, like you mentioned, you arranging songs for a band, and
Mm.
then after that, and then there was the episode where you released Orion and the Enigma under a label with
Mm.
Vishal Dadlani. And there's
Mm.
a lot of stuff that, like you've been around the block like for quite a while. I'm sure you've seen like a lot of things and you've seen
See,
like
this is why
different
I'm old.
aspects. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
gives you so much experience. It's not
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
age, but it's more about like what all that you go through. Like I think there's so much to learn from there, I guess. Like
I think there's, yeah, at any point in time in anyone's career, you are you yourself are looking back and thinking about your own journey,
oh yeah,
and see
definitely,
how far,
definitely.
and looking at how far you've come. in this time. See, the reality of all these things is that, like, the experience, and I think I agree, like, it's less to do with how old you are or anything of sort. Is how much time you spend and what you learn from it,
Right.
and how you sort of absorb the good and the bad of what you were around. And I think personally, I feel very grateful that each of these things that I managed to do, and each of these milestones, and each of these chapters that I had, taught me something to, maybe not repeat in the future, maybe work on a little better.
Right.
And but the one lesson I learned the most was that I had to, like, really depend on myself more, and I had to really depend on um, doing things on, like, learning how to do them myself, learning how to um, like, uh, maybe educate myself on how to make things, or how to produce music, how to
Right.
record this video, how to edit this stuff, how to make it look cool, and how to just give in to that kind of thing and that kind of thinking.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
I think the more that's like, I've gone with everything with the same mindset, and I think it's a great mindset to have when you just kind of go because it's fun to explore.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that brings me like that just made me think about I mean like you've always been very self-sufficient, and like you've tried to do things on your own like you just described. Like was it because like there wasn't as much support from outside, or like I'm sure like there are people have backed you over the years, but I mean to what extent, to like what extent does that like extent like to does that go to, like how much do
I mean,
people really like when they listen to you? I'm sure like a lot of people have told you I mean, Vishal Dadlani himself, like he signed you to
that's
his label. That was
yeah,
one incident that happened. So, like, how beneficial was that really? Like, how if you look at if you look at it in a broader perspective,
yeah.
what did that experience like give you or take from you, so to say?
So, um, I think the one thing that one needs to know about, like, an experience like that is that, first off, yeah, there are people who will believe in you. There are people who will actually trust in your journey. There are people who will actually really have, uh, who really want something good for you as well. At the same time, there's also the opposite, and it's not like you can lean on that to happen every time. um,
Right.
but I think when that happened for me, I think it was a bit of a turning point in my own musical career, because I think it actually helped me scale up a bit, a fair
Right.
bit actually. Because what ended up happening was, like, I was performing at some festival in Hyderabad, and then Vishal sees me perform, and after the gig he's like, come here, okay, so I'm doing this, let's get this done for you. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, nice, thank you so
Yeah.
much, like,
B- yeah. That's
but
that must be really cool. I mean, to have like someone like we all know and we all look up to, like having him like come and validate you in a way as an artist. I think that must have felt really good.
I think I think at one point in time, maybe, yeah, I needed that validation. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. I think I'm doing good work for the first time in my life. I think I'm actually doing something that's incredible, and here I am now. Uh, like, I was 25 at the time, and I was like, or 24,
Right.
25, and you know, let's do this. Let's work on this. Let's make this a thing. Let's make this happen. And lo and behold, I just remember the whole process being something very um, up and down, because of the fact, like, I had to split the album 7 tracks, solo 7 tracks with a band, and I had to try and find a balance for that. And I wanted to make songs that were good, and I wanted to make man. Everybody here just wants to. He's just grateful you're alive. I can just see.
I mean, yeah, I've been AWOL for a bit. So yeah,
Well,
yeah, I've been
thank God you're here, and thank God you're okay.
yeah,
I'm really glad
yeah,
about
we're
that.
all good.
But
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
as you were
like,
saying.
joy is bay and bay is joy.
These guys are really sweet. Yeah, they're such good friends of mine. But yeah, anyway,
So, but
we should get back on track.
yeah, no, but when the opportunity came for me, I didn't really think that, that I'd have maybe somebody who'd believe in me or something, and I don't know. And I was kind of struggling and working my way through all these opportunities. I thought, like, actually, if nothing was going to work out, I was going to do a master's and, go and do work in another job, get another job later on down the line. And sometimes I
Wow.
lament the fact that I didn't go down that path, but sometimes I also feel like, I'm so glad I the took this as a choice.
Plunge. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
because when I left my
how was that? How was that experience? Like, was there? How was the situation at home, if you don't mind me asking? And like, did that play any role in you choosing music or not choosing to do like your masters or any of that stuff?
I mean, it became a little challenging to do things because I mean, like I had opportunities to do things, and like, but I don't come from like there's a lot of musicians, a lot of artists, many other individuals who kind of follow their dreams and passions purely because of the fact that they have a lot of family support and backing and
Right.
financial support and everything. And I don't really have all that. Like my family has supported me in some ways and everything, but from after a certain point, I've had to go on a path on my
Right.
own. So
Absolutely.
so since then, like now it's been a matter of trying to balance my own work and trying to figure out how I can make myself as much of a success as I can, and
Mm-hmm.
and not to prove a point to those who actually, like, had anything against me or anything, but to give back in the way that I hope I can. And so when I got this opportunity, even just to make the album, was great because it took a huge burden off my shoulders. One, to get an album out,
Right.
and two, also learn the process of everything that goes into making that, like making an album. And the
Right.
more I the more into it, and now I've made 3 albums. Like before, like
Yeah. In
uh,
the past, I think in the last 3 years, you've put out 3 albums, right? If
five
I'm not
years
wrong.
in the last
Five
5 years, I
years.
put on like 3 albums, and like that's a lot. That's a good return, actually. I feel like it's a
That's
good
quite a
amount.
bit.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
number of songs. I collaborated with great artists. I've got, like, the fact that I got to release my own music in that time also meant that I got to work and play the guitar on some movies. You know, work with guys like A.R. Rahman, work with like Pritam, work with Vishal Bhardwaj. All these things are like incredible opportunities that you get, but you don't think about these. Oh, I think we lost Joy here,
Hello.
but there we are. Yeah. Like, I was just saying, like, when you release your music and everything, like, you don't really understand the kind of opportunities or the investment that you put into yourself now and how it can repay you in the future. And there he goes again. All right, guys. Bhagat Singh, I have missed you guys for so long. I want to know. I know it's been a year since the whole lockdown thing. Okay, there we go. We're just waiting on him to come back. But I hope college still looks the same. If I'm not mistaken, I've said this a bunch of times, but if you ever look for Bhagat Singh on Google Maps, it looks like a toilet from the top. Like the field looks like the flush tank, and then the circular building looks like the circular building.
Right. So while Joy is coming, I'll sort of take over. So I hadn't realized that कि मतलब Bhagat Singh का campus looks like a toilet.
Man, like, when at the time I was in college and all that and stuff, like, because I used to study geography there,
Right.
so like, so in the geography department, we look at a lot of maps, and sometimes we like have fun with Google Earth and understand how GIS systems work in other applications and all
Was
that and
Google
stuff.
Earth a thing back then?
It was
मतलब तब
probably
तो आया
until
आया होगा.
no, I think back then, I think like it was probably in its like twilight years. I think it was kind of dying down by then. But as much as like, college looked like a toilet, I don't think it was so much. But it was just like it was a funny thing to notice, um, about the place and everything. Do we have Joy back?
Yes.
Looks like it. Oh, I'm so glad you found it. Yeah, yeah. No, but I hope you're okay. Right. Oh, that's okay. No, we were talking about the albums and the repertoire and everything. That was my personal viewpoint, yes, but it was so hard to get that point across to the world. And I learned a very solid lesson in marketing and everything of the sort, is that to keep your message simple. Because I remember I put a hashtag when the album was coming out saying I am Orion, and then Vishal at the time laughed at me, says like, why does it look like it says I am moron? So like like just every time. But I think yeah, like the process of like putting an album out, that whole thing just taught me about, like, first off, how to record what I do, how to make what I do, how to produce everything, and how to learn, how to learn. Actually, that was actually it sounds stupid, but it actually taught me, like, the kind of questions I should ask when I'm in a studio. The kind of the direction something needs to go and everything. Like, when you're making a song, how much of it is in the moment. Like, for example, a song like The Enigma, I wrote it while recording the album. A song like Redemption, I wrote it while recording the album. These are songs that I made during the process. So yeah. Oh, it's simple. Like, so my bed is right behind me. I get up and then I sit in front of my computer, which is my studio, and then I'm like, okay, I'm at work now. But the whole thing about, first off, you have to understand the kind of questions you're asking yourself, in the process of learning and everything. You have to understand that you're constantly sitting in a place where, like, you can either question where you are at this moment, or you can question what you need to know to get further ahead. Excuse me, sorry, I am coughing a little bit, but like, the big thing to ask yourself is, like, you have to differentiate those moments. Like, you have to differentiate the times where you're actually asking, like, what do I need to do to get better? Why am I stuck here? Those are the things which are, like, it depends on how you phrase the question. So one can lead to resentment, the other one can lead to, being more, um, you know uh, bring more, explorative, curious, and everything. And so when it comes to like, even doing these things and producing yourself and understanding, how to work with some other people and everything, it all boils down to the simple thing of how much of yourself are you willing to give up. Like, where is your ego in this process? Where is your your pride and everything of the sort? Because you can walk into walk into any room saying, like, I have the biggest balls in here, come mess with me, but the reality is you probably don't. And but the but what you need to do is understand that whatever you start with, you're always starting from the bottom, you're always starting from ground zero. So um, you need to give yourself enough credit for taking the step to start learning, and give yourself credit to asking the right questions. And then over time, you yourself start to understand where, understand that, this is how I'm growing, this is how I'm improving. And I saw it a lot over the last year itself, actually. Because I really, the song a day challenge is just one part of that, but like, I saw it more through the fact that I was producing this last album, The Book of I. And like, when I was making it, like, I had luckily finished off a lot of all of the songs beforehand. Like, um but I took it as a challenge to produce the songs, like, just before they had to go out, like, so 2 months before or something like that, and then create everything and then put it out there. And and in the process of, like, creating that and process of pushing myself, like, not only did I burn out or anything, but I also learned how to create a better product every time. I learned how to balance something, I learned how to produce something, I learned how to record something, I learned how to create a drum kit without, I don't have a drum kit at home. So I learned how to, like, I learned how to, like, small things, like, I don't have a bass guitar, so how do I figure out how to, like, make bass noises or
Uh,
something. a valid
I'm
point.
so sorry to cut you guys off. I'm so sorry to cut you guys off, but there's some issue with Joy's voice. So if Joy could just restart his browser once.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, God knows if it helps me stay grounded. At this point in time, I'd love to produce a song which would be just as good to be a TikTok hit also. So if somebody's doing all these weird dances or something, nah, I'm joking. But the reality of everything is that the biggest thing I've learned in anything that you do and anything that you make is just to make freely without any restrictions and without any judgment. And no matter what happens, it might not be great now, but it'll be great sometime in the future. It needs to take its time. It needs to take a bit of, it needs some time to sort of incubate. It doesn't happen overnight. Um, so yeah, in the whole process of doing this, like over the last year, I learned what I need to do better. I learned how I need to sort of be, how I need to work on things. And it was all an important process in growing and in becoming better as a creator, as a musician, as an artist, as a producer. And because of the skills I learned, it allowed me to work with other people. It allowed me to, you know uh, put my get my hands dirty, and maybe even mix music or master music and do all these other things which were like, adjacent to the creative process. um, and things in which I had, long since, long since, like, which I would always give to somebody else or anything. Like, I was very happy with, going putting myself through this process and, like, getting my hands dirty. So yeah. No, I think that's the most important thing, to sort of keeping yourself grounded, like, to keeping yourself, you're not above or beneath anything. Like, at this point in time, if you can write the music, if you can play the music, if you can sing the music, if you can produce the music, if you can mix the music, if you can master the music, it's just, you might be a jack of all trades, a master of none, but a jack of all trades, you know a jack of all is still better than whatever. Yeah, jack of none, exactly. So no, no, it was just a cough, bro. You want me to cough again? That's cool. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Aronjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Thanks. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. So first off, everybody or anybody who's here listening, and like, how on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most and one being the least, like how anxious do you feel right now? If you want to put that in the chat, just go ahead. But like, I personally feel like I'm a very anxious person. And also, like, let's just, this is a very long question, very long point also. But like, let's just go to the first half of your things. They're talking about, like, the process of perfection and trying to work on the whole streaming thing and everything of the sort. Like, look, the one thing I have learned is that the moment I try to chase, the moment I try to set myself up for trying to follow something else, is the time I suck the most, because I was always trying to follow somebody else's narrative at the time. So it put me in a place where I was probably not uh, always comfortable with who I was in my own skin, and constantly trying to feel like I had to make something else to try and fit in and everything. And the point is that in every course of creation, in every challenge we kind of put ourselves in, like, when we're making music in today's day and age, we have to understand that things are going to change. Our environment is going to change, our landscape is going to change. And the only thing that you can do is, like, you have to feel like, you almost have to give yourself the visual of being that immovable object when it faces an unstoppable force. And at that same point, like, it's not to me, it does not mean that, like, the object like absolutely breaks whatever comes into it, but it means that, it cuts through the traffic, it cuts through the noise, it does everything else, and it stands out on its own because it follows its own path. And I think that that is a very important metric to creating the kind of music, creating the kind of work you want to. Because the reality of it is, like, regardless of the numbers or anything that a streaming platform will give you, regardless of the visibility it gets you or anything of the sort, you have to create things that are true to you. Create the music that is true to you, create the identity that is true to you, create the songs that are true to you, and that is never going to change. And the more you focus on that, the better you will fare, and the less you'll have to feel like you have to stay relevant, the less you'll have to feel like you have to tell this story or do something like that. The more you actually start to focus more on your story. This is my understanding, and a lot of people come and ask me this, is like, why, how did you manage to do this? I said, I don't know, I didn't really give a shit, I just wrote a story about things and I just let people know that this was it. I'm not, and I don't think I'm the most visible independent artist. I do know that there are guys who are, who have a lot more visibility and also who have the presence and everything. And I think, like, in some way I feel like I sit in a very healthy middle. So in that sense it does help. But coming forward and working more on the mental health side of things, like, it does, there are things that can affect you, like, on a massive scale. Like, when you start to really look at the reality of your life, when you start to really look at the uh, things that you actually have to do to maintain your life, the things you actually have to do to look after yourself and everything, those things are challenging, because as an individual you're constantly looking at your dream and your passion and everything you do because it's the best thing in the world, it's the best job in the world, and suddenly a lot of the illusion that music paints for people just suddenly disappears. Like suddenly after a while, it's not all a bed of roses that you perform at this festival and your life changes overnight. It doesn't happen like that. That you get this opportunity and this happens. It absolutely doesn't happen like that. The more you realize that there's a reality check, that in every year there are just like 300,000 more people who want to do the same thing as you do. How does your voice stand out? Does it help that I started earlier? Maybe. Does it matter? No. you know um so it depends. We all have a way and a place for where our voice matters. And when you start to realize that, like, your efforts, and for me personally, like, I mean, having been through therapy, having been through other things and all that, and understanding the facets of my life, I realized that, if I am just one person going through this problem, there are millions of others who are also suffering, and who also feel pain, who also feel like, mental anguish for not being able to uh, progress, or to feel like they're stuck in their reality, to feel like, that they themselves feel like they're facing a massive uphill battle. And I feel like it's equally important to acknowledge that in people. Like, at times, like, I know, because I've been that anxious person, and I am that anxious person to a large extent, like, worrying about the things of tomorrow, worrying about, the problems that I'm dealing with today. And then when I listen to somebody like, oh, there he's gone again.
Right, so he'll be back soon.
Yeah, there he is. Huh. Yeah. But yeah, so the yeah, and going through all of this, like, it's just that, we all really want to be successful at what we do. We all really want to have, you know a good outlet and a good chance at success. We all want to have that dream come true, and sometimes it takes longer for some than it does for others. And I'm also in that. I'm also on that path where I also feel like, yeah, maybe it does take a little longer, because I don't feel like I've reached where uh, I don't feel like I've reached where I think I ought to be, at some level. Like, I too also feel scared about, like, how far I have come and what I have left to do and everything of the sort. So I think it always works better to sort of, share your pain and your kindness and everything with
Yeah,
those who
definitely.
are also going through, whatever pain that they are. And it helps to be sympathetic to their plight, because, you know you can only know so much, and at the end of the day, there's always that straw that breaks the camel's back. You don't know which one it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that it's something that you pay a lot of attention to, and you devote a lot of energy to kind of propagating this train of thought, and like
Yeah.
encouraging people to think about their mental health. Because there's a lot of stuff that I can also personally relate to from what you said. Because
Right.
I also started therapy for the first time, after like delaying it for so many years. Like over the past year is when I started, and it's been a wonderful experience. It's been quite insightful, because there were a lot of things in my subconscious that I also didn't like really
Bhoot.
give time
Huh.
to think about. Exactly, huh? Like तुम अतीत का भूत तुम्हारे सर पे चढ़ जाता है.
Yeah.
So when stuff like that happens, like you don't really like realize all the things that you put yourself through on a daily basis without even realizing it. And then like when it kind of I don't know, it culminates to something that after a point it just gets hard to ignore that. And even the
Yeah.
part where you mentioned where like there's a certain sense of perception that people have about what you do. And like it's not this statement is not to sound ungrateful for the opportunity or for the privilege that we have to be able to pursue music and to
Yeah.
be able to it's just that sometimes like the actual struggle gets lost in all the fluff that, like
Yeah,
these one-off things that happen. You play a certain festival, you play a certain gig, and
yeah.
of course it's wonderful. It is a milestone for you. Even like opening for you 2 years ago was a personal milestone for me. Like
Thanks.
I'm not trying to patronize you, but it's just what it is. Honestly, like it's
Oh,
it's
thanks.
it's gotten to this point where you have established yourself, Dhruv, and you are a wonderful musician. You are an even
Thank
better
you.
person, human being,
Thank you.
and
I
like
smell great too.
it.
You wanna just keep going? No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, definitely. we have to do that later once COVID is done.
Yeah, yeah,
But no, but genuinely, I mean, so I mean that's what, like, that was an experience. And then like I had a lot of people come up to me and asking me, how did this happen, what did you do to, like, like do this, and like what do you do, how do you get gigs, how do you, like, like how do you become an independent musician. And I genuinely, like, I'm lost for an answer. I really don't have an answer.
yeah,
It's just things happen. You just have to keep trying, honestly, like,
yeah.
and just
Exactly.
trying to stay
This
true
is
to who
like one
you
of
are.
those. This is
Just
like one
keep.
of those jobs where you can just say, like, you can just turn around and just shout it to the world. It's like, I'm an independent musician, and you are. Like, you can
Yeah.
no. But I'm dead serious. Like, that's literally how it is. But to get those opportunities, to get into a place where you can actually perform and play and everything, I get it. And that show, I mean, like a couple of years ago, whatever that performance was, it was a great evening. It was fun. It was fun to have like so many people around in one night. Just like, it was a fantastic evening and everything. Yeah, and it was fun. I mean, yeah, it just means I have to use less hands, fewer hands. But like, but no, like, look, for all that it is, like, you know, you are right. Like, there's a lot of fluff that goes into kind of working on things. Like, at this point in time, yeah, you can't become an independent musician now without like having a few shows. But where are the shows? So how do you do it? You make videos and you put them up, and that is exactly what I used to do. And that used to give me a lot of joy. And for me, like, a lot of the time, like, what's ended up happening is that I've over time, I used to get so burnt out trying to figure out new ways of trying to put myself out there, that I realized that I'm just going to slow down. But yeah, there does come a point where you think, okay, when's the next show, when's the next milestone, when's the next thing, like, how far will this milestone take me and everything. So you put a lot of pressure on the next opportunity, you know and in this way, like, we're kind of changing. We ought to change the narrative of, like, putting pressure on the next opportunity, and kind of try to instead give more attention to our story and our songs and our process and our path and everything. Like, these things are very important in the creative process of what we're trying to do. And it's the same for you. Like, you have also said, like, you've written 2 albums worth of music and everything. And at this point, like, it's just become a matter of like seeking perfection, seeking all these things. Like, this doesn't change. um it doesn't change the definition of who you are, or like whether you're going to get another show or not, or anything. But the one thing I've learned about like this journey and this path is that you put as much of yourself as you are willing to out there. Tell your story in as honest a manner as you can, and put that honesty out on display. Like, and the people who will see that message will accept you for it, and that's it. That's all that needs to that's all that matters. If it matters, like, if it's putting small snippets of you playing songs, if it's like, you talking about certain stories, if it's talking about like certain, like, ideas that you have, or like, or doing something like a song a day challenge thing, like I do, like where I spend 30
Right.
days
Right.
making a song every day. Like, so all these small investments in yourself, they pay off in the long run. When you start releasing more music, more people will end up hearing more songs. It's
Right.
basic.
Right.
Like, you give yourself a larger target to aim for. And and it's all about At this point in time, you have no idea what is going to work and what isn't, but you try.
Right.
That's all you have to do. You just put yourself in a place where you can just try. And
Yeah.
at this point in time, like, you know, how much are you willing to try is the question that you should ask yourself. How much are you willing to put yourself in a place to test yourself in a manner? How much are you willing to put yourself in a
Right.
place to be like, even to combat the mental tiredness and fatigue that you feel? Like, how do you express that? How do you talk about that? How do you, instead of
Right.
fighting it, like, how do you live with it and then tell your story while you're in it? These are all things that,
Right.
like, matter more to, being matter more in the path of being an independent musician over, like, the actual, sometimes over the actual songs and everything, because that's talent, but the attitude part of it is what matters more, you know.
Right. No, definitely. I think that's where your mental strength comes to test every time
Yeah.
uh, these questions and these thoughts come to your mind.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I would want to also roll back the years a little bit and get back to this topic of conversation once again, but just to kind of keep our audience engaged, because we do have an audience as well, and I'm sure they do want to hear about your experience in college, since
अरे,
that's वो तो बात करनी उसके बारे में बात करना चाहिए. We should talk about that. I mean,
yeah.
so how did you end up in Bhagat Singh? What was like? How did that even happen? Like you graduated from school. What was
Yeah.
what was the scenario there at that time?
So basically, what happened was I did very badly in my boards. I studied in uh,
High five.
so basically I did very badly in my boards and everything. And there was this funny experience of, like, trying to God knows, like, trying to get into colleges, and my mom my mom started saying, like, say, okay, great, we're going to have to do the CCA. Beta ka kya hoga? Oh, hi Ram. Like,
Of course.
so I was
Yeah.
of course, like, worried about being in that same Sharma ji ka beta itna behtar kara hua hai. Like, what happened to you? Like, that kind of thing. So I was worried
Yeah.
about what was going to happen to me and everything. And so I did ECA auditions. I auditioned at Hansraj. I auditioned at Venki. I auditioned at KMC. Yeah, I did these three colleges. And Hansraj, I didn't get in. Venki, I didn't get in. KMC, I got in. And then finally, I learned my best friend was going to
Right.
Bhagat Singh. I was like, chuck it, I'm going to Bhagat Singh. And so, like,
Wow. What were the
uh,
odds?
but it was a funny experience. Like, it was just a great. I think when I went in to do my first the ECA trials, and I went and I played drifting, and I played, like, all
Right.
these percussive acoustic pieces, and I went to this other
Yeah.
college and I did this and I did that, and finally when it came time to selecting a college, I got into Bhagat Singh on my own merit, like, no audition, no nothing. It was the
Oh.
grades on my paper. So
Oh,
when I,
damn. No way.
so when I finally got into the college, I decided to I just I mean, like, I decided to sit in, and like, I sat in the desk, and the lady, the teacher, she saw my grades and she's like, yes, 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 okay,
Yeah.
cool, done, you're through. And I was thrilled, like, because for once I got in not because, like, I had to be a part of some society, I had to do this activity to be here. I got in because, like, for at some level I did work a little bit and my grades helped it. And so Bhagat
Right.
Singh is right near my house. I used to fall out of bed and be in college late
Right.
even. And
Oh,
yeah, I
wonderful.
I was there from 2010 to 2013, and it was probably one of some of the most some of the it was probably a very formative part of my life. I think, personally speaking, like, I always felt like I had a warm sort of connection to the place, because from the outside everybody would, like, lambast this place. They would have an opinion of, how these people are, how everybody is, and, oh,
Yeah.
ये तो गवार का कॉलेज है, ये तो क्या क्या कर रहे
Uh,
हो
gun,
यहाँ पे.
गुंडे बसते हैं यहाँ पे.
They have guns hidden in every corner. What kind of place are you in, and stuff like that. The only thing I remember is the first day I came, on the day of orientation, my friend and I came, and literally we stood on like in the main entrance of the college. When you walk in, then there's that big stairwell, right?
Right.
And then there's that open area in which like you go up, and towards the left it leads to the library basically. And in the in that spot where I think there's that open like kind of bridge walkway kind of thing, my friend and I were standing
Right,
there on
right,
the
right, right. Yeah.
my friend when I was standing there, and literally on the first day, this woman, this girl, I think it was her first day of college, came through and she fainted right at our feet, like "Puduk." Like how she face planted on the floor, and like
Oh
I was like,
God,
oh
that
crap! So
sounds
we helped
scary.
her up. I helped her up, sorry, and I put her up in the thing. Somebody had some water, gave it. I said, like, can you see my fingers? Like, can you? I think put her up on a chair and everything. It was weird. It was hot. And then my friend like kind of ran away. I was like, I went to find him later on. I was like, why didn't you help her? It's like, oh, because she had a mustache. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you say
Oh
something
God.
like that? I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? This woman was fainted. Like, anyway. So like, it's just the stupidest thing ever. But it was just funny. It was like things like that, which kind of,
Yeah.
which made the experience quite funny. But the more time I started spending there, did the society auditions and everything. And oh, nice.
Apologies for that. This that's a daily ritual that happens at my house. I'm still trying to figure out what key
Nice.
this is in. Yeah, I don't
This
think I'll ever
is
find out
this
what
is
key this is in. But apologies.
Imagine being that girl. I doubt she's listening to this. But I'm just glad that whatever it is, she was okay. But yeah, Bhagat Singh ended up being a wonderful place because I think I left my expectations at the door, and I was happy that I could go to a college that was right next door to home, you know.
Right.
And more than anything else, like I think I didn't care that I was in this place, I didn't care that I was in this college, or I was studying this, or what was going to happen to me after all, or anything, because I just enjoyed.
Right.
First of all, my professors were great, like and the experience was awesome. I got to go on field trips. I got to make friends in my classroom, and the biggest thing for me was um, college is an extremely grounding experience for those of us who are lucky and privileged, who have gotten a chance to go to nice schools, and who interact with spoiled kids and brats and whatever in classrooms and stuff, all the way from
Right.
grade 1 to
Right.
grade 12. And you come to college, and then you realize that not everybody has lived through the same circumstances as you've had, or has been through the same
Right.
things as you've had, and suddenly your whole uh, avenue of talking to people,
Perception.
your perception, it
Right.
just changes, because you can't
Right.
treat your environment the same way. You can't be this arrogant personality. You can't, because the people see right through you, because they know, like,
Exactly.
you can either make it a really lonely experience, or you can make it a fulfilling one. And the more you start to accept the 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 environment you're in, the more you start to accept the fact that, like, that not everybody has the same amount of freedom as you do, at some level, or sometimes you don't have the same amount of freedom as somebody else does.
Right.
And you also understand how people enjoy their happiness bit by bit, and you start to become more grateful for the things that you are a part of. And for me, that's what college taught me. That's what Bhagat Singh taught me,
Right.
that I just needed to be grateful for the things that I had. And I was very grateful, for sure.
That's wonderful. I think that's what being adaptive is like. I think that's what it means to be adaptive to any situation. I think that has like spilled over to your career as well, and like it has influenced this. I think this quality has also influenced your life from there. And I mean, you did mention that you got into KMC as well, and I remember, and we all know, like everybody who's been part of the DU circuit. I mean, like this so-called DU circuit has some sort of pedigree. I mean, it has been around for a while. Like every time this comes up, we talk about bands like Parikrama that came out of it, and that essentially like spearheaded this movement. So
Yeah.
I mean, how much of that kind of how much of that weighed on your mind when you decided to like just come to Bhagat Singh and not go to KMC? And when you were in Bhagat Singh, how much interaction was there really between the society that was present in Bhagat Singh, or your personal interaction with people from other colleges? Because I've talked to Abhay Bhaiya. He went to Ramjas College, I think,
Yeah, he was
and
in
his experience in the DU music circuit was just like, like the very typical experience of being in the fest season, relentless like jamming competitions and like band events, outsmarting the other colleges, like making your society the best society, making the best band, like. And his experience was very competitive in that nature, and for him also was very like formative in that sense.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, college was formative for you, not necessarily in a musical way, but more as like a personality development, sort of like, that was like your personality development arc in college. Was it like that, or was
My origin
any different
story.
from
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
But look, I wanted to do my reasoning for doing music was also like worrying, because like I remember I got my first when I finally got to play an NH7 weekender also. That was during college.
Damn,
I
that's
remember
so cool, dude.
the year before I got a call to do it. Um, the guy, he still makes fun of me for this. Like he says like, okay, yeah, come, we want you to play, we'll give you this much money, you just have to make your way there. I'm like, okay, but I don't know if my mom will let me. Like, that was the first thing that worked. And so I couldn't do it the first time I was asked, but like the second time I did, like that was in 2012 when I finally did get to do it in Noida and all that stuff. It was really funny, but
Yeah.
it was hilarious. Like,
But
um,
it's such a true
but
story, though. Like, I think a lot of us can relate to that. Yeah, it's
because
great and all, but like, mummy नहीं allow करेंगी.
yeah, so like, but to answer your previous question in terms of like this DU music circuit and things like that, like okay, look, there was this like very comical high school drama kind of feeling, like, oh, this
Mm-hmm.
guy,
Oh
this
yeah,
is
it's
Nabab.
absolutely that. Yeah.
This is Nabab. This is Nabab. He's so good. He's like one of the best guitarists. Like, yeah, my friend said he played like Children of Bodom with his teeth. I was like, whoa, oh my god. It's like some crap like that you'd hear. You'd hear like, you say, oh, this is this guy. This is
Yeah.
Chetan Dominic Avasti. This,
Yeah. Oh,
he's
he's
this
Michael
guy.
Jackson reincarnate.
Yeah, oh man, he has like the most. And this guy was so good. He was the best singer I've ever seen. He still is. Like, his
Oh
voice
yeah,
is incredible.
totally.
Like, oh, there's this other guy, Bhanu Mendiratta. He's this great thing, and like, so all these
Mm.
guys, um, there were all these characters and personalities. There were just people who
Yeah.
had a way with things. They had an ability to perform and everything, and so there was a sense of admiration. But the thing was that I never got my hands dirty with it. I didn't really care, because to be quite honest, I didn't want anything to do with anybody. Like at this point in time, I
Right.
was just keen. I was happy to have my circle of friends, my best
Right.
friends from the music society in Bhagat Singh. One guy by the name of Aditya Narayan, who's also like
Oh yeah.
who's really
He was,
succeeded in becoming like
yeah,
a
definitely.
great film composer, and he's done like a lot of great work in music as well. Now he's in Bombay. He's been there for a while and everything.
Yeah.
And so
It's really funny. It's
this
really
is not the
funny.
same
I'm so sorry to
Aditya
cut you
Narayan
off, but
Jha,
like,
by the way. Just letting
no,
you
no,
know.
yeah,
Huh?
it's the same Aditya Narayan who was also my senior in school. I was in grade six, and he was with our school band. I think those guys went on to form the Uncertainty Principle, which
Yeah.
Raghav Miatal later was the vocalist of. But he was the original vocalist of the Uncertainty Principle, and I remember like grade six was the first time I heard Metallica. He was on stage, headbanging, singing "Wherever I May Roam." And yeah, that was quite an experience. That was the first time I'll ever listened to metal music. I ever headbanged, and I had like a bad neck for like a week straight.
But
And
you
it's
didn't do
funny
any
that
of these.
he also
Yeah.
ended up going to Bhagat Singh,
Yeah, I mean,
and now he's
he and I were really, I mean, we were close in college, but now we're even better friends now. And every time I go to Bombay, like, he is my go-to person, and he's a great soul and everything. Like, but this is what I was wondering. Like, there's always going to be people you talk to who will give you a different perspective. Like some will lament the
Right.
anger, the thing. Like there was always competitiveness. People were always trying to find one ways to one up each other for sure. But at this point, it
Right.
actually came to a point where for me, I didn't really care how to one up somebody. I just wanted to figure out how I would use competitions as like, oh, I get 5 minutes of stage time. Why don't I just perform? I'm not going to think of
Ah,
anything, whether I'm winning or losing or anything. I'll just use this as stage time. I'll get better, I'll get worse. Who knows? It came to a point where I stopped playing covers. I would play my own songs towards the end of my
yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
like towards the end of my
That's
college
amazing.
dream and everything
That's
of the sort. So
amazing.
I
Yeah.
started to give less of a shit about how I sounded or what happened or anything. I just played. What seemed fun to me was having fun. And at the time of being on stage, it was better to make people laugh. It was better to make, I play a song which had no real attachment to, like,
Right.
trying to win a competition or anything of the sort. It was just a it was just an idea of just going on stage and just playing because it felt fun to do that. And like, um the more I did that, the more I realized, like, I was always going to have an audience. I was always going to have, like, somebody
Yeah.
from another college or something like that. I didn't care. I didn't care that I was going to make friends or win or lose a competition or anything of the sort. But like, um but there were times where, like, my other friends, like maybe like Aditya and another friend of mine who was also
Right.
in the thing, like, at the time, this guy Ruhin Chatterjee, who's now a ad guy. But like,
Oh, nice.
but at the time, like, understanding that there was this, understanding, like, that there were competitions, like say the trio or the duet or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
those are the things we may have taken a little more seriously. But from a person on a personal level, like, I think I just didn't really care to try to fit in or anything and stuff, because I don't think it really mattered to me so much. So because I think, like, while everybody else was figuring out what they were doing, I was busy writing my
Doing.
songs. I was busy
Yeah.
doing, and I felt like, at this point in time, that's when I felt like, okay, I can make my album, I can do this, I can do that, I can make this video, I can, you know I can reach out to these people, I can do that. And so I didn't really feel the need, like, sometimes there's a big, lamenting, like, oh, ye gigs nahi ho rahe, this is not happening,
Ah,
this is not happening,
right.
this gig is not happening. And I realized, like, there's so much more that we can make a reality, like,
Right. Right.
and sometimes it's very easy to sort of fall in this path of, like, cycling into, like, saying this is not happening, that is not happening, and it happens to me a lot. Like, sometimes you kind of pin your hopes on one thing. But the
Right.
more the more
It's
I
only
realize
natural to
that
do that, no?
it is a little bit, but it also depends on your mindset, on how you're willing to, branch out, how you're willing to learn, how you're willing to find a new path to success for yourself. Like, these are all small things that we take for granted very easily.
Right.
The fact that we do music is such a privilege. Like, the fact that you're in a music society
Absolutely.
in a college, you would go out and compete in college festivals and everything. Also, these are such great privileges. When we're very lucky to have them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So so I think, like, use them as an experience to learn. If you don't get a chance to go to a music college, go. You have this opportunity to compete, to sing, to perform. And at the end of the day, the judgment is all arbitrary. Like, nobody, like, the people who sit in
Yeah.
those chairs who judge you also, judge you for those 5 minutes, and that's it. It's not a defined answer for who you're going to become 10, 20 years from then. Like,
Absolutely.
you are,
Totally. I mean,
yeah, you're entitled to follow your own path.
that's exactly the kind of mindset like I came into DU with, because DU wasn't my first rodeo in terms of being in a college society and all of that. Back in Mumbai,
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be the president of the society of my music society there in my second year, and after that I dropped out of college from there. And I
Yeah.
came to DU. I finally like accepted the fact that music is what I want to do in life, and I can't do anything better in life than I can like sing and try to write songs, and nothing else gives me the same happiness that music does.
Yeah.
And my game plan was to, like, what I had known was, like, my school. I was very lucky to have like a very good culture of music in my school itself. And a lot of my peers my seniors went on to like get into DU, and then they followed through from there. Even Amar Pandey, who was your bassist, who played bass with you in your trio,
Yeah. Now
he
he
was a
plays with
senior, and
Pratik. Yeah.
he was one of the yeah, he was one of the first few people who like picked me up like in class in grade 9. I auditioned for the school society. He was the
Yeah.
first one to like like give me some confidence that, dude, you can do this. And I remember doing like it was the first time I performed on stage with the band. We did Lazarus. No, we did Sound of Music by Porcupine Tree on stage,
Right. Right. Right.
and our rehearsals went really, really well. But on
Yeah.
the actual competition, it was my first competition. I had crippling stage fright. I completely fucked it up. We did
Nice.
really badly. And after that, I was completely forgotten, and it dealt a big blow to like my self confidence. And
Yeah.
the small instances like that. And the very next year, we ambitiously did Bohemian Rhapsody for a
Mm.
group song,
Mm.
which Anirudh Verma, he was the guy who arranged the entire thing, and we had like this entire like 7-part harmony going, and I was singing the
Yeah.
lead there, and we won the competition. There was some sort
Nice.
of like redemption for me. Like there were small incidents
Nice.
like these that kind of like channeled me to kind of try and maybe like give it a shot. And when I
Yeah.
came to DU, like my mindset was to get into like the best music society in DU possible, so that I meet the right kind of people, because it's too late for me to go to music school now.
Yeah.
So what's the best way that I can kind of like make it work for myself? Which is why like I asked you about like your experience with this situation.
Yeah.
You've gone your own way. You it like these things never really concerned you so much. And it's quite interesting to
Yeah.
see how much I was like obsessed with like getting into the best society, like being the quote unquote the best vocalist and all of that. None of that shit even matters today. Honestly, it doesn't. It mattered so much at that point of time.
Yeah.
It holds no significance today. We're all on an even keel. We have grown up. Once you get out of college, it's all about like what you make of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a great lesson to learn from there. And I have another really interesting question for you now, since we were talking about all this stuff,
Mm.
uh, like especially about like how college society, or like how good you do in school doesn't, or college doesn't really define how good you do in life.
Yeah.
You did mention once that Bhuvan Bam came to audition for Audiophile. I'm sure a lot of people want to
Yeah.
hear about this. This
Oh
is the
man.
moment they've been waiting for. Do you want to describe that? Like, what was the situation surrounding that?
So at that time, our society didn't really have a name. But it was so funny because like Bhuvan came with his guitar, he started singing, and at that time I wasn't the president. Some other friend of mine was.
Right.
Aditya was, sorry.
Oh, right.
I'm gonna
Okay.
blame it on him. I'm just gonna blame it on him. But like, so we're auditioning people. We get a few people in the society. It was fun. We do all these competitions. We get people in, and it was great. Like, to make these friends and like to connect with people like this. I really enjoyed it. Um, but when we were auditioning people, we auditioned at like one of these huts that used to be there next to the canteen, and he comes in with his guitar, long hair, starts playing, and he starts playing, and then the first
Yeah.
instance, Aditya goes no. He starts singing, and he just goes no, and then he walked right out. And I think to
Oh,
myself
ouch.
that day, that is the best thing that has ever said no to him, because at this point in time, because if he was in that society and he had done something later on, maybe he would have followed his YouTube career later on, or God knows what. But to see him just
Yeah.
like take his own path and do it on his own, that's the big fuck you need. Like sometimes in life, you just
Yeah.
wanna point a middle finger
Yeah.
out to the
It's
world
quite
and say no.
cruel, though.
I mean, look, there's so many things that, like I said, like there was one point in time I was supposed to go for uh, my masters and everything of the sort, and I didn't. And then
Right.
like literally a year later, I've got an album coming out and everything. So there's lots of interesting
Right.
things that can happen. There's lots of good that comes from things. Like you just need to give yourself time. You've got to give yourself time to fail, more importantly,
Right.
because when you
Yeah.
fail more often, you give yourself time to at least slowly succeed, and give yourself time to learn, and be stronger, be a little more thick skinned.
Right.
But yeah, um, I'm just glad. Like it's just really funny. Like he said, no, that's it. No, he said it
Yeah.
was so fast, it was so abrupt and everything. I like it was over before I even knew what happened. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, who knew that small moment would become like such a big deal later on? It's not a huge deal, but it's
I
just a
can
funny
honestly,
story. Like,
maybe he doesn't remember it at all. But to me, I look at it and I think like, it's like from that day on, he realized his true calling to
yeah.
make Yandugiri on
What if
YouTube.
that
So like,
what if that was his own, like, what if that was a awakening, rude awakening for him, like, as well? Because like,
maybe
what if he
maybe
was like,
not.
अच्छा मैं audition के लिए जाता हूँ, मैं गाया हूँ, oh shit, no बोल दिया, oh damn. College में music society तो ऐसी okay, so
Maybe.
Divyanshi is saying हाँ, it didn't
Yeah. So
exist
I
maybe.
Yeah, so it was
Well,
right. It wasn't
okay,
like in my. He's actually quite right. It wasn't fully. It didn't like fully exist. It was just present. It was just there. Like I mean, there were
right,
people who played music and they did it. But I think the years as they passed or anything like people start. I think you guys have taken on like you've helped the society take on a new life in total. Like you've given it a new trajectory. You've given it an identity and everything, and these things are all important. I mean, like in after a point, like it, we also didn't learn from our failures also at the time, because we were also
right,
self-obsessed, thinking like, chalo, we'll go in this competition, we'll go do this one, we'll go do that one.
right, right.
you know all these other places where we got to compete, where we got to do things in, like, there was no identity. It was just Bhagat Singh College, Bhagat Singh College, Bhagat Singh
Yeah,
College. I
and
think
I
for
think
us,
like
yeah, I think for us, we were a surprising unit, because like, oh, nobody expects this person to be from Bhagat Singh College.
right,
Nobody
right,
expects
right,
this person.
exactly.
Who sings in Bhagat Singh College? Who does this? Like
Exactly. I think that's sort of like that strange, I think, enigmatic force is still there in Bhagat Singh. I think we really have to give credit where it's due. Like this current batch that basically facilitated all of this. I mean, I have been inactive in the society for the past couple of years now, although I'm still finishing my final year in graduation. But like
nice.
this current bunch, Raghuvansh, Devyanshi, Sanjana, Shivank, who's been like, all these people, they've really changed like the game, so to say, because I mean, even like I don't want to get into like the nitty gritties of like audiophile in the past 3-4 years, but like we've always kind of been the underdogs. I mean, when I joined in 2017, we were
Yeah.
like, like all these other colleges, all these college society, like the high school gossip thing you mentioned before, like every had, like, this weird tone of, like, but like it was more like it was more of a subconscious thing, or like more of an unsaid thing, that like we aren't like as good, or we won't be as good, and which like just brings me to like mention like how important it is to not get caught up in all of that. And I think like that is why I am really glad that this current batch has like really tried doing something different, because it's the same all the other colleges. I'm not really like criticizing anyone, but it's just as an outsider is what I observe. Like every other college society has been doing the same competitions, and like maintaining like the spirit of what fest season is like. But I
Hmm.
really liked how this current batch tried to add some value to like the scene, and by doing master classes, by without this conversation. I don't know how
Yeah.
many people are actually eventually listening to this, but the fact that we're doing this in the first place, even if 20 people are here, it really matters a lot. I mean, because nobody ever has done this before, and there's always a first time to do things, and I'm glad we're doing this.
No, yeah, I think it's. I think first off, you guys are. अबे भैया मारेंगे. Please don't call it masterclass. Hey, you bhai? What is the masterclass of emotion? Also, we can do. No, but like, look, the reality of this is that I think you guys are doing a great job more than anything else. Like getting people to speak, getting people to. Of course, you can get like your performances, you can get a lot of things in place, but what I think I think at this time, especially in a time where like everything is locked down and everything, I feel like it's great to sort of be in a place where it's like, okay, what can we do for ourselves? Like, what can we do as a society? What can we enjoy amongst the
Right.
amongst the 20, 30, however many of us are here? And this becomes a very important lesson in learning. Like, this is where you kind of stop giving, stop caring so much about what the outside world has in store for you. So in this process, we are just surrounding ourselves with the mindset by which we are happy within the growth we make within ourselves. It doesn't matter how we peg ourselves to the standards outside. So you guys are doing a great job of identifying that, because a lot of the times what we forget is that in the act of making music, sometimes we feel like we limited ourselves to these performances and to these uh, you know uh, uh, doing these
Competitions.
fests and competitions.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But
Yeah.
the reality of music is so much more. Like, there's you have the innate, you have this joy of wanting to learn how to make songs, to produce songs, to create new versions of things and everything. A society of music should
Right.
not just be like an army of people who are ready to fan themselves out to go and compete, but a society which
Hmm.
appreciates music. you know
Yeah.
and that is more prevalent now amongst whoever is here than it was in my time. So for that I applaud you, and I think that's more than what anybody should need right now. I think that's a great step.
Definitely. I'm totally with you on this one, because
I think some
we do need.
some people, yeah. I think some people have asked questions as well. Like, I think let's just. I think if you guys got more questions,
Yeah.
put them down in the thing.
Yeah. Sure.
Uh,
Let me just check you once. I think we might have a few questions over on YouTube because we're not able to see the questions from there.
okay, no. Are there some questions?
Guys, do you have anything to ask Dhruv? Any questions for him? Any? It can be anything. Doesn't have to be related to music. It can be
Marketing thing.
about.
So, okay,
It
there's
can be
one thing
about
about marketing.
what perfume Dhruv wears, what phone he
I,
uses.
and I still can't smell myself. This is really annoying. Okay. So I'll answer the first one. It's like, any tips on marketing that actually reaches more people? Any mistakes you're seeing artists making in terms of marketing? Uh, yeah, I think the one thing that I think is very important in marketing is actually, instead of like doing the things which might reach out to more people or anything, is actually telling your story. I think the act of telling a story is way more important than trying to figure out this small thing is going to work for this thing, it will work for this or anything. None of that matters. What's most important is how you connect your story. So what I like to sort of teach people, whenever, like, in terms of people who just come to me as an artist to produce them, or even through my Patreon, when I teach people lessons on like how to also like help them improve their distribution and everything of the sort. Whenever you're releasing a piece of music or anything, create a marketing story. In your marketing story, it could be 2 paragraphs long, but it's not it but the marketing story is not like a thing by which you actually say, okay, I'm going to do this thing, then this thing next. No, write about why you wrote this song or this album or this creation or anything of the sort, and write as honestly as you can, like as if you were writing a diary. Be as honest as you can. Then from there, every bit of messaging you do, you make from that story you've written, in that honest essay or whatever you've written at that point. Because from then you'll start to get a clearer idea of how you're going to tell your story. So if you're going to make a reel or a TikTok or whatever it is, you'll understand, okay, I can draw it from this, I can draw inspiration from this. Or if you have an image, and if you have a video or something like that, you draw inspiration from that story. So that is probably the simplest thing I would say. A lot of people kind of have very wayward sort of perceptions on what they should make, on how they should do it, and okay, we'll do this, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I always feel
Hmm.
like it's better to have one fountain or one source from where you can gain your inspiration, so you can actually create better things in the future.
Right.
So yeah.
So, I mean, So, like you mentioned before, like in the conversation, you mentioned that you learned a lot about marketing from the experience that you had releasing, I think, Orion. It
Yeah,
was where you said that you learned that uh, like the messaging that you just talked about. You
yeah.
said the messaging was a little too verbose in that sense. So how do you draw a healthy balance between saying too much and not saying enough about what you're doing? Because sometimes there's some pieces, some songs that people write that are very personal to them, and not everyone feels very comfortable sharing the exact details of it. Is that why you create a story, and is that why you spin it a certain way?
Oh,
Sure.
sorry, somebody knocked on my door. But
No worries.
and so I think it wasn't about being verbose or anything. I was just making like silly mistakes and things. I think, look, you can never say too much. I think at some point in time you can never say too much. But there's also the idea of like what is right, and who is going to hear it, how often do you post, how often these all these scientific things are, I don't know, they sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But the reality of anything you do is just
Yeah.
that the reality of anything you do is like, obviously you learn from your past experiences, but I strongly believe that the more you have a story that binds everything that you say together, it makes it a lot easier. And that's something I had to learn over time, because in my initial process of learning and doing all this stuff, really um I had to really understand, like, okay, I don't have this content, I don't have that, what do I need here, what do I need there, what songs do I need to make, what, you know. So I always feel like if you have one place to start from, you can, from then on, like all your stories, everything you have to say makes it a lot easier to kind of go on from there. Uh,
Right.
so
I mean, I have a personal question. So to like from
go
for
on.
myself, this is a question for myself. It's the one of the reasons why I haven't been successfully able to release any of my music under my own name is because I have tried diverting my energy into different bands and into like different genres of music,
Yeah.
and I did it out of the love for music, and because I love so many different genres of music. I sing in a metal band, I sing in a Hindi folk band, I have my own stuff. There's another, like, post rock band that I sing in. I mean, like, and these are all things I'm passionate about, and they are things that I have, I've spent a lot of time,
Mm.
trying to like make these things happen. But somewhere I feel like my own music, something that I started, out in music with, that got lost in a way. And I'm not really sure like how to put this, but how do you like, I mean, how would one go through with kind of managing these different ideas and these different
Personality.
trains of thought, and then still have like a certain image for yourself? Because I mean, it like it's kind of like being a jack of all trades but master of none. Where like
Yeah.
all the trades that you ply, you're equally passionate about all of them. But then like the one trade that you do want to be a master of, that also gets diverted, because as human beings we have only like a certain amount of bandwidth, so to say. So do you have any advice or any sort of insight on that?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think for the longest time I focused on just being on my own and doing my own projects and everything of the sort. So what I what I can say is you have to understand where all these things overlap for you, because passion might be one thing,
Right.
but you also need to understand where all these things overlap, you know. In the sense that where are the parts in your creative process in which, like, you feel like, okay, this part of my story also I share it with this part, I share it with this, I share it with this, or if they're completely different identities. But it boils down to the same thing. I mean, like, I mean, what is your personality in each of these places? How much of yourself are you giving into in each of these places? And if there's something where you feel like you there's a innate desire within yourself to want to give more of yourself to something you want, it's a simple matter of choice. Like, whether you choose that, you choose you want to put more effort into this, you choose that you want to you choose the things you want to talk about. Like, the more if you are passionate about something that that's existent in another project, but you've been writing for yourself for so long and not gotten a chance
Right.
to put it out or anything of the sort, it becomes a matter of choice.
Right.
After a point, like, are you willing to invest that time in yourself to give yourself a chance? And
Mhm.
this is what is most important. So when are you willing to do that? And if you give yourself a chance to, like, write your music, perform it, record it, put it out there as you, will that
Right.
help the other things you do? And so I would always say that if you have like some if you have like a place where you feel like you are lacking,
Right.
put everything on a piece of paper, or put everything on separate pieces of paper. And if one of those things was missing, would you miss it at all? Would you actually genuinely miss it? Like, say, if you weren't doing this band, would you miss it, or would you prefer doing your own thing? Would you prefer doing this? Would you prefer doing something
Hmm.
else? Like,
Hmm.
these are all questions that you can ask yourself. Like, if you were doing a if you were doing a gig or something, like, if I didn't do this song, would it
Right.
be the worst thing in the world? But if you were like,
Right.
if you have these band projects or everything of the sort, like, what I learned was that, like, I had one or two bands that I was a part of, and I realized that if I wasn't in this project or something, would I miss it? And the first thing that came into my mind was, no, I wouldn't miss it. I would regret
Right.
not having given myself a chance first, and so I gave myself, like, enough of a chance. I gave myself enough of an opportunity, and that
Mm-hmm.
was vital to me. So this is probably the one thing which I sort of give myself time to try and figure out whether I like something or not. If I didn't focus on it for a while, would I miss it? And a lot of the times, if I don't, I realize that I don't need it in my life anymore. So yeah,
Right.
um,
No, that does help. Thanks for that.
no worries. Let's answer a couple of the other questions that are there.
I think Hoymontik asked that he wanted to
One thing.
learn how to write songs. He's just starting out. So he was looking for some tips to maybe get
Uh,
started.
his message got retracted. Well, so I mean, like, this is one thing I teach in my. I was helping. Um, but this is one thing I teach, like, as a for my Patreon people as well, like, in the act of songwriting and actually creating songs from the get go. And a lot of times, what ends up happening is that the first step to writing a song actually is, I personally feel like it's actually first being a good listener. So when you
Right.
listen to good music, when you listen to music and you pay attention to all the things in the music, what you like in it, what somebody said, the lyrics, the rhythm, the beat, the everything, suddenly you start to dissect what you hear. And then from there, you actually understand better about what you want from songs, what you want from an experience, what you want from a song. And that you start putting on yourself. So um, the first thing the first thing that I would say when you're making your songs is not to think that you have to write the whole thing at once. Write 10 seconds of it. Write 10 seconds of an idea with the melody or a hook or something like that, wherever it may fit for you. And that from there becomes the first block of the rest of your song. So you can start with, like, maybe it's the first or two lines of the chorus or something like that. Maybe it's a verse, maybe it's a riff or something like that. From then on, like, you can then figure out where in the song idea that 10 seconds lies. Is it like, does it belong in the chorus, does it belong in the
Mm-hmm.
verse, does it belong anywhere else? And you can assemble your song along that. And so yeah, I think that's one way to sort of going about creating your songs.
Right. And that is true. I remember like attending your songwriting masterclass, your workshop, so to say.
Yeah.
It happened in Delhi, and you had mentioned something about events in the song itself. I think something along those lines. where you played a bunch of different references, different songs. One of
Yeah.
them was "Toxic," and it
Yeah.
was that intro sample.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's from a bunch of old Bollywood movies. Two Bollywood
yeah,
movies, the two separate songs which they brought together. Yeah,
yeah.
so the idea of like that's of course like a taste and preference thing later on and all that, but it relies on the same principle. Like, the song Toxic actually is based on that riff. So like when you think about it,
Right.
it's a few seconds of time.
Yeah.
That's 4 seconds of like the song or anything, like,
Right.
but the reality is that it's a the song of course has so many other interesting parts, but you remember it for that riff. So obviously
Exactly.
identifying parts that are memorable, identifying a hook, identifying that event or anything in the song that actually can be memorable is one thing. But
Right.
it's the same thing as why I say, like, think of about 10 seconds for your song first off, to make it memorable, to make it something that you can stick to, and then figure out where it fits in the song. And that's what I'm saying, like, the 10 seconds does not have to be a word, it doesn't have to be words or anything, could be a bit of music, could be a bunch of things. Yeah,
Right.
that becomes an event in itself, like, and it depends, like, it's something I like to do in my music, and it's fun, like, to create things like that.
Right. And
um
even in my experience, I just want to
yeah,
add something to this.
yeah,
To just give in my 2 cents to him, Himantik, was when I wanted to write songs for the longest time, and I tried writing songs ever since I was like in grade 8. I was able to write my first song when I was in I was in Bombay in 2015 was when I wrote my first song.
nice.
So it took a long time, and I always tried really hard to write a song, but I was never successful in that. It was quite a frustrating experience. How I ended up writing my first song was, okay, this is not recommended, but experience heartbreak. It will flow out of you.
Yeah,
But I mean, that's what helped me. But honestly, was to just not think so much about it. And I mean, if in terms of just starting out, even if you just like pick out two chords, just sing a melody over it. Just take two chords or four chords and just repeat them. Just sing something over it, and there it is. It's your song. However it is a song. It is something that you have created.
yeah, and
And
yeah, and I
I
think
think,
that's a great bit of advice, actually. Like, I lean into your emotions when you're creating a song or something like that, because if you look at it more as an outlet, it works handsomely.
yeah. Okay, we do have some really interesting questions now. There was the first question is: did you know Shubh Saran from before, or did you get to know him after both of you became established artists?
Why does everybody's like established artists? Like, what thappa do we have? Like, I don't have a certificate saying here, like, Dhruv, here, Lele. Like,
है नहीं ना ये तो like we it's your audience that tells you that sees you in that light, and that's what your thappa is. It is your
but
thappa now. It's that
um,
it's that verified tick on Instagram.
no, but I think for us, like, for both of us, first off, Shobha and I were classmates in school.
Oh,
Not classmates, batchmates in school. He was a year senior to me in school, but I'm actually older to him in reality. so,
nice.
so I
This
have
has
the upper
happened to
hand.
me also. Like even my juniors have become my compatriots because of my certain indiscretions and
Yeah.
indiscipline in terms of academics.
But no, so Shobha and I have known each other for a very long time. I've known him since I've come to Delhi, so I've known him for 13 years. And we kind of became much better friends after uh, the whole music thing caught on for us, because once it picked up for me, it picked up for him in a different way, and we kind of both grew separately together in a
Right.
good
In
way. So,
different,
like,
completely different environments, wasn't it?
yeah, completely different. It's like, yeah, special somebody I know always says, like, oh yeah, do things separately together, so it's great. But like, yeah, I mean, it's just that, like, his path was different. Like, he went down this Berkeley route, he went to this
Right.
like, this music educational route, and he has learned in such an interesting way. He's surrounded he surrounded himself with um, like great people and everything, like in the way that he creates and
Yeah.
everything. And so like his environment has helped him thrive in the same way, like
Right.
you know I've also tried. He's done it in his way, like he doesn't care if anybody else says uh, he doesn't care if anybody else thinks of like what his music is like or anything. He creates it his own way, and I like that a lot. And I've been like I've been very like privileged to like work with him, and to have him interpret my songs, to have like to get to perform with him, to meet his bandmates. I consider some of his bandmates some of my close friends as well. We talk quite
Oh,
often,
that's
so I'm really
wonderful.
happy, like to be there.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, so I think it's great that uh, I'm sure that you already have people around you who you went to school with, and like where you see how they've blossomed, you see how they've like uh, grown and in
Right.
interesting ways and everything. And I think there's always like a sense of admiration for the things that they have achieved in their own lives.
Absolutely.
So there's that to enjoy. But yeah, I'm really thrilled, and Shub is a great guy, so I'm really happy for him. What do you think of Tim Henson's style, which essentially blends elements of prog? First off, Tim Henson is incredible, so good.
Isn't he?
He's
Insane.
just he is
Trendsetter.
just yeah. It's kind of scary, like how good he is. Like I mean, like
How much do you want to bet he might have sold his soul to the devil?
like if you have to bet, so somebody won already. So uh, like at this I think the his ideas, the way he creates. I think what's more interesting is not the fact of how he plays; it's more of how he creates his melodies, um, his sense of progression and everything. I thought that's more interesting to me, because I think the stuff he does. His band is Polyphia. No, I hope I've got
Yeah.
the right emails.
Yeah.
Yes, okay,
That's
good.
it.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So like yeah, so I think in his process of creation and everything, what I find more interesting is the progressions he has in his music. It's less to do with the technicality and everything, because I think technique will teach you exactly what he does. It's not how he does it, though. You know.
Right.
So I think that is something that we as musicians and artists need to pay more attention to. It's like the how and the why and everything are far more fun questions to answer. When
Right.
you start to ask of how a lot, then what ends up happening is this is like, okay, this requires this time, this requires this dedication, do I have this energy? But like I think he's phenomenal. I think he's a great guitarist, and I think like it's just it's wild, it's radical that somebody as awesome as he is exists
Yeah,
in
I
the
think
first
like
place.
they like they as in Polyphia, they strike a very interesting balance of writing linear songs that are catchy at the same time.
Yeah,
And it's like prog in itself is not a very open genre in terms of like getting people introduced to prog and like making people enjoy prog. It's
yeah,
not, the barrier to entry is not very low, so to say. I mean,
yeah.
and despite that, they've almost made it mainstream now in their own right.
I mean, it doesn't matter what stream is this, what things, like a river flows its own way. It digs deeper in the ground. It creates big valleys for itself. Like it doesn't do it for any other purpose. And so,
Right.
for its own, for these guys, I mean, like I wouldn't like to think that okay, now they're in the big leagues. They're like
Right.
they're in this
Right.
or
Right.
whatever. I mean, they
Right.
make it because they make it. They wanted to make
Hmm.
it, like
Fair
and the
enough.
way the music sounds now as to how it sounds, like here we've got, yeah, Raghuvansh is saying himself, like so it's great to have this kind of passion, to have this kind of creativity and everything of the sort. And I think it's more important to learn from how they learn from like why or like the thought process a little bit rather than just the technique. Like, it can teach you a lot of things. Like, this is how I like to look at people's music, which is why I also said earlier, like, it makes it's very important to be a better listener. you know it hopefully
Right,
teach you to
right.
be a better listener in life as well. But
Oh yeah, definitely.
uh, I wouldn't fully recommend getting your heart broken or anything of the sort, because it's quite devastating.
Oh yeah, it is, it
You
is,
don't
it is.
want
I
that.
was just joke. That was just a joke. It
But like, I would say, you know
was true story, but it's funny. But yeah,
yeah, it's funny.
like it's so stereotypical, but like yeah, I remember watching Rockstar in 2015, like 2016 exactly, when I got my heart broken. My friend showed me Rockstar. I was like, dude, I can't be this. My life cannot be this typical. I can't. No, this cannot be the catalyst to my songwriting. Like I can't. But it was. I can't even lie to myself, telling myself that it wasn't. It's so
Right.
weird that it was. That's how it started. It's not what it is today. But like for the longest time I kind of thought of it as a crutch, because I wrote some like heart wrenching stuff out of like that heartbreak, and like I've seen people cry in front of me, like bawling their eyes out listening to what I had to say, because especially because they saw me going through all of that stuff in front of their eyes. And for the longest time I kind of
Oh
got
man, you have great
stuck.
friends, man. What the hell? Man, who cries sympathetically for you? I've never had that. I want you. I
I've been,
want the friends you have, man. What the hell? No, I'm
I,
joking.
I, I, I would like to consider myself very lucky and grateful. I've been surrounded by
Oh, I
like
know.
good people in my
That's
life.
great.
Hold my hands and thank the universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like again, like that became a sort of a crutch for me, because then after the point, because that's what songwriting became to me. That like कुछ ज्यादा जोर से फील होगा, बहुत जोर से थप्पड़ पड़ेगा दिल
Yeah.
को या दिमाग को, तभी कुछ
Yeah.
निकल के आएगा.
Yeah.
But like it was very important for me to shed that sort of mental block as well, to be able to
Mm.
write freely, to be able to
Yeah.
write for the sake of writing something, and to
Yeah.
be able to tell a story that isn't my own.
Yeah.
And I think that's another journey as a songwriter, that someone who will,
Yeah.
like any songwriter would go through that journey, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But
I think.
it was also like, oh, have you had any experience doing any commercial projects, like working for ads or something of that sort?
Yeah, I have in the past. I mean,
So what was
um,
it like? Do you want to talk about it?
um, I mean, like, it's. I think as a project, it works. It works well to teach you how to work with other people who don't see the world the way you do, and don't
Right.
see music the way you do. Like, a lot of people be like, oh yeah, I used to play the guitar, in college, and I used to be this and everything. So, maybe we can come up with a
Yeah.
melody together. There's that. There's also this bit of uh, you know of trying to figure out how to build an identity of everything of the sort. So I think when you're working on a project that isn't like doesn't revolve around you or anything, the
Hmm.
more you have to take a lot of care about listening very carefully about what somebody else has to say. And it's all a process of trial and error. You just do your best. I think, like, you can't really say much more than to just try and put your best foot forward in every instance. And sometimes it'll help you create in ways which you didn't realize. Like, maybe one day, like, I play music on the acoustic guitar, but like, I got to make dance music or something. I was making EDM. I was making, like,
That's so cool, dude. Like,
and I
isn't
was
isn't
making.
that a isn't that so much fun? Like, kind of going out of your way to do something that you wouldn't typically do for yourself, but still like pushing your boundaries in a way.
Yeah, I think that's most important. I think if the work allows you to push your boundaries and everything, I think it helps a lot. So I always feel like testing myself in different waters and everything. Like, I've done background scores, I've done like a lot of other things as well. And in the process of doing that, I also realized things of how, like, maybe a director thinks, no, this music doesn't work for the film. Okay, maybe this does, but not in its whole thing. So you understand how to sort of I think the biggest thing about doing work on a commercial basis is less with regards to how to create for that, but also to kind of deal with your own ego at times.
Right.
Because you can really get hurt trying to put so much work and effort into creating something. But yeah,
And
uh,
then being told that
yeah,
it's not good enough because it
yeah,
doesn't fit someone else's norm.
exactly. So that's probably the
Right.
one thing that you probably have to keep in mind. But
Right. But
yeah,
I'm sure
that's pretty
like
much.
but these are certain things that like a lot of people do like think about. I mean, I personally used to think about this aspect of like creativity as well because I mean, typically from like from a corporate perspective, this is a creative job, isn't
Yeah,
it? I mean, like making ads,
yeah,
it's also supposed to be like a creative thing, but now like coming from a independent songwriter's perspective, like how
yeah.
much creativity is there really,
I
and
don't
how
really do.
much.
I don't really do so many ads though. I've done like a few in my time, but to be
Right.
quite honest, like it depends on the project that you get, and it depends on the things that you, uh, the freedom that you have. I would say like maybe doing a film score gives you more freedom, but giving doing
Right.
an ad saying like okay, maybe the structure of the ad will lead to the composition, will lead to the kind of composition you need. So those things are things that you should be aware of. I think from a creative standpoint, uh,
Right.
that this is what works here, this is what works there. But like in a movie score, you might have more freedom because you have to set a tone and a mood for a scene and everything, and that comes from a creative and heartfelt process. But for an ad, it's more like this is the language of the ad. It's loud, so if you start making very soft, gentle music, it's not going to work.
Right.
You have to figure out
Right.
uh, the right kind of language for it.
The pacing for the
Exactly.
right. Fair enough. Thank you. Guys, do you have any other questions? We're nearing the end of the session now. Is there any other question? While we search for some more questions, if there are any, Dhruv, do you want to talk about your Patreon page and like
Yeah, for sure.
and your initiative that you're doing?
Yeah, of course. First off, I'd like to just thank all of you guys for having me here. I'm really glad to see Bhagat Singh just do such interesting things and grow and broaden horizons. I don't want to sound like an old man. It's like, this is why I went to Bhagat Singh. But to be honest, I'm so pleasantly surprised to see people wanting to do this from my college. Like, it's so great. Like, to want to grow
And
and to want to be different. And I'm not saying I'm any personality or anything that you should listen to constantly, but I like the fact that you've got like a bunch of people you talk to and different musicians, different creators, getting different perspectives. All these things are fantastic initiatives. I'm really glad that you guys carry this on. And the part of there is a part of me that wants you to keep winning and keep doing your thing. And I think in this way
yeah,
you're winning in more ways than one. So I'm very happy and very,
that
very
really
proud of
means a
you
lot. And
guys.
I think speaking for the
Uh,
entire society, we're also really, really thrilled and we're really happy that you took out your time and you, despite not being at the best of your health, like still like taking up this time and inspiring us, because like a lot of people didn't know that you were like, even people in our society didn't know that you were in our you were an alumni from our college. And hearing your story and like all the things that you've talked about, I'm sure like it was inspiring to us
Thank you.
as well, to know that like there are different thought leaders, so to say, who've done their own thing.
Yeah.
So really happy, and thank you for sharing
Oh,
like
no
your
worries. And
information, your knowledge and
thanks. But the
experiences.
other thing with the thanks. And the other thing with the Patreon, I started the Patreon as a way to sort of also maybe support myself as a musician during the lockdown. But I also realized that, like much like yourself, like you started saying, "Oh, I started talking to a therapist," and somebody else would say, "Oh, I've been talking to a therapist." Somebody else, and I realized in my life there were so many people who were just surrounded by this world of therapy and maybe putting their feelings out there. And I realized how expensive it is, like for people. So my goal to start the Patreon was just to get people to you know to sort of amass numbers so that by the time I reach say 200 patrons or something like that a month, I would donate a
Right.
month's worth of my proceedings to actually paying for people's therapy.
Right.
And
Oh wow, that's amazing.
so I wanted to do that over time, um, and donate 1 month's worth of thing over time once I reach that goal. And I think I set a pretty reasonable goal for myself, and I think I hope to achieve it slowly soon. I just have to
So
stay
what
with
is the
that.
goal, and where do we stand today with respect to
So
the goal?
the goal is 200 people to sign up as
Okay.
patrons, and right now
Right.
I'm at 27 or so patrons. So it
All
takes
right.
time. I've been doing this
Yeah.
for a little bit of a few months now and everything. But I think the moment I reach 200 makes it a lot easier, because I think the
Right.
money raised then allows for me to take care of a significant amount, like at this point in time.
But that's really
Uh,
wonderful. What's the minimum contribution a person could make, since if anyone from here is interested in joining this pledge?
so the before you do join, also you should also know that I put a lot of content, from lyric videos. Everything that I post as a video, anything comes out there first. Exclusive things in terms of my discography. My entire thing comes with a, if you on certain tiers of my thing, you can actually get uh, a full access to a deluxe edition of my discography, with like special live
Well, that's
editions of
amazing.
songs and old singles and things like that, which haven't ever been released, or like
Wow.
you can never find the audio for anywhere. But you can become a patron for as little as $2, and which is like 150 rupees a month, or you can also subscribe annually. And I have various tiers in which I actually teach the guitar or songwriting as well. So it goes all the way from
Oh, that's
$2
awesome.
to $35, and I've been teaching people how to write songs. Like I was saying earlier, like
Right.
this one guy I teach always brings his kid into lessons and everything. So we kind of talk
Yeah.
about alternate tunings and everything, or you know there's other people where,
That's
like,
wonderful.
we talk about, like, of course, dealing with heartbreak. So these are like mini therapy
Yeah.
sessions, stuff like that. So I think that these are fun things. So if you guys would like to
That's
become a patron,
awesome.
like, I'd be thrilled to have you on board. I'm working on creating merchandise for this year as well, so I need to sort of work on increasing the number of patrons I have, so I can create and give some cool things back to those guys who also subscribe and are a part of the process. And so I hope, if you guys are interested, go on. I'll put a link in the chat, I think.
Yeah, please do. Guys, please join the Patreon if you are able. It starts from 150 rupees a month, which
Yeah.
is quite reasonable actually. And you do get face to face time with Dhruv in that, and you can
Yeah. So,
also upgrade that and maybe even have a lesson with him or do other
but
cool
yeah,
stuff.
and do other cool stuff. And I'm really happy to be a part of this process. And also, I
No, it
think
is a
there's one.
wonderful initiative.
And so thank you. So if you guys are interested, go ahead and join. There's one more question left here. What do you think the potential for a solo instrumentalist is to make it in the industry? As in, how likely is an instrumentalist to work as a marketer? I mean, take as a marketable product. This is from Raghuvansh again. This is again like Shubh Saran is also just this. Like, he's a solo instrumentalist almost, and he works around an act and everything.
Right.
Like, he produces, he writes, he does everything for the band. So it's not a matter of the marketability, it's how well you're willing to tell your story. This is the only thing. Like, I don't know, a lot of people struggle with this so much. But if all of the artists you actually admire in the scene, and everybody you listen to in the independent music industry, all of them have something that is relatable, that they can attach to, and that's the story they tell. And so it's not just about that not being India or anything, but I was a
Hmm.
solo instrumentalist for a while, actually. So for me, like, the idea of that didn't matter what I was trying to say. I mean, initially my story was about the grief that I faced when I lost my father, and over
Right.
time, like, the stories evolved and they became newer stories, and they became things I wanted to paint, pictures I wanted to paint, and everything. And it happened over time. It doesn't happen overnight or anything. But
Right.
as an instrumentalist, it's the same thing. If you enjoy a polyphia, you enjoy music like that, how would you tell that story here in this environment? Of course, you're not
Right.
limited to releasing your own music, but you also have the opportunity of you know playing on other people's music, being a session musician here and there. You have a lot of liberty doing interesting things. So it depends on how you can maximize those opportunities for yourself. but the first thing is just to create and to make the music, because you don't know the market. I didn't know the market for me, so you might find out for yourself.
Right. When you have to pretty much create a market for yourself, which is even a tougher thing to do. But like you've done it, so we do have a case study, so to say. If like
I don't
it's
know about
it's
that, but like,
a
yeah,
case
it's
study is nothing but a sense of inspiration. Like if someone has been able to do it successfully, I mean, maybe other people can follow suit and you know
yeah, of
like
course.
take
I think,
inspiration from that.
yeah, for sure. I
That
think that's
actually
the
brings me to my most poignant question so far, and probably the final question. If nobody else has a question,
yeah,
if I may.
yeah. Go on.
So, what is success, and what does success mean to you? Do you think that you are a successful musician?
I don't think I'm successful, not yet. um, I think success is just based on your level of happiness at a certain point in time. But
So,
you know,
is
it's
it is
so am I unhappy? Yes,
is it
no,
that you're is it like that's what
no, no.
that's what I was trying to ask you?
No, but I think success is a it's multiple things. Like, I feel like success can be learning a new skill. Success can be implementing that new skill to grow in different ways and everything. So, for me, success is all about using the same energy you have to learn, and using that to grow yourself in better ways, in your path, in your future. So I don't think it's always about like achieving happiness through material wealth or through monetary success, because that might come, that may not come
Hmm.
also. But
Right.
a good to monitor your success, it's most what's most important is to know that that there's no value to it. There's no value to your pride, there's no value to your the outcome of what you've achieved or anything of the sort. You create value by creating things that you're proud of. If you make music that you enjoy, I sometimes think success is the fact that a friend will send a message saying, I don't know anybody who does the things that you do, because you are pushing and following your dreams, and in some way, like, they see admiration and they live vicariously through you. And for me that feels like success. Like,
Right.
for me it feels like success when, like, I get, maybe I'm lucky enough that one of my songs actually ends up on a platform, and I get to see my song, like, be ingrained as part of like a really cool thing culturally for things like, maybe it gets in a movie or something like that, and I worked 10 years to do something, and finally a song of mine went into a movie. So it takes time. Like, sometimes that could be success. It doesn't Time doesn't matter. Sometimes it could be the fact that I finally have a new microphone to record something with. I don't really. I am.
Yeah.
I tend to think of, the more I think about the progress I've made, the more I think about the little successes I've had along the way that help me do my things better, help me do my job better, help me create better, and those that I feel like anything that helps me do my work better is probably a success in my mind.
Right. That's quite. That's a very healthy definition of success, I would say.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people would be surprised and ready to fight you when you said that you don't think that you're a successful musician. I know a lot of us would be like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? But like I do understand where you're coming from, though. I understand that we ourselves are our own biggest critics
You're a
sometimes.
product of your own
And
success. At some level, you are. At wherever you are today, you're a product of the success of the little successes you've had along the way, and the many failures as well.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Can you give me a second, please? I think there's some major issue. Give me a second on the Hello. Yeah, we're back. All right. So that's hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. I can hear you.
Um. Yeah, I think we're back. Dhruv, are you there?
Yeah, yeah, I am. I am. I'm right here. Can you hear me? Hello, check. I don't think you
All
can
right.
hear me.
Thank you for
Uh,
waiting. Appreciate it. I don't know what's wrong, but for some
no
reason, I'll
worries.
send you a video of this. Like, I don't know if it's on my Wi-Fi, but
I love it.
you to, in my headphones, your voice questions. Please feel free to ask. If not, I think we're good to close the session for now.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me here again. Thank you, Audiophile. Thank you, Aronjoy. Thank you, Shivan.
All right.
Thank you all for being amazing. Thank you for your questions as well. And, you know, and I hope to recover soon so that I can come and see you guys in person one day, hopefully in class. But thank you guys. All right.
Definitely.
I'm
We're
gonna
looking
I'm
forward to
gonna
that
go
day. Thank you so
because
much
I've got
for being here. Yeah,
I'm gonna go because I have to rest because my voice is about to crack any minute now.
really.
Thank you, Machas.
Oh, yeah, please,
Be safe and please look
please
after
do. Please
yourself.
do. Please take care.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, you
And
too. Please take care of yourself. And thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate all the insight and everything that you shared with us. And from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for being who you are, Dhruv. Thank you.
thank you guys so much. It really means a lot. Lots of hearts and claps. Thank you guys.